I am here with Crystal O'Neill. She's the president of Seer Interactive. They have 175 employees and went fully remote in 2020. And Travis McAshan is the founder and CEO of Glide. They have 25 employees in 7 countries, fully remote. We're going to talk about the B Corp certification process, but actually I think more than that, we're going to talk about the expectations from employees around transparency, around working for more like values-driven businesses, around human-centric leadership. So I'm excited to get into that with both of you. So first, we're going to spend the next 40 minutes together. So I'd love for you to introduce yourselves, but maybe you can share with us like a personal and work obsession at the moment. Like, what are you really excited about right now? Crystal, I'll start with you.
Great. Hi, everyone. Crystal O'Neill. As Erin said, I'm president of Seer Interactive. We are about 175 folks distributed through the U.S. mostly, a couple folks in Canada as well. We are a digital marketing agency with a focus on SEO, paid media, creative, analytics, and definitely more recently have been highly involved in what generative AI looks like from a search marketing perspective for our industry and for our clients' industries that they operate in. We are a B Corp. I think we'll go through this. We got certified in 2023. And as we get more into this, I'm happy and excited to share sort of it's part of our origins has always been being purpose. Our team is very aware that our 3 C's and our Y are our clients, our coworkers, and our community. And everything comes back to that when we're making decisions as an organization. Outside of work, personal obsessions. I've got 3 kids, so they kind of run my world, and I enjoy that. They are all in sports, so lots of sports involved. But when I do have time, I love a good yoga class. And then work-related, alluded to this already, and I'm sure many of you are in this camp. Many sessions have touched on this, but all things generative AI, how it's functioning, how it can be used for good, how it can become a superpower alongside our team, not to replace our team, and more importantly, given the industry that we are in, how is it disrupting our industry and how do we guide our clients strategically through this transformation?
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Travis McAshan. Thank you for the introduction. I'm the CEO and founder of Glide. We are a digital creative agency, values-based, purpose-led, also a certified B Corp, a member of 1% for the Planet. Just trying to use our business as a force of good. I'm also an OG Austin native, so I was born here in Austin among the 9 other people. Everyone else has moved here. We're okay with that. And I'm also OG remote. So I started this company in 2003, and we were remote from day one and have been the whole time as a company. And so just kind of have failed in every possible way in a very narrow field of being remote. Now there's a lot of folks here, obviously. And I would say that my passion right now, in addition to Crystal, is generative AI and just consuming kind of. I have this thought as a leader, our job is to cast a compelling vision and to charismatically kind of say why that vision should be important. And one of the questions that I've been asking myself is can AI solve this? So CAST, C-A-S-T, can AI solve this? And then a follow-up question to that is, should AI solve this? And so using these questions as a leader to kind of look at my business, look at my organization and flow, and just realize that the quality of your output is dictated by the quality of your input. And understanding how you can look at structured data and the taxonomy of the information that you're collecting about yourself, your processes, your workflows, your team members, and everything about your clients, and putting that into a structure that would allow those workflows to work well within an AI-enabled environment. I saw a post today on LinkedIn that said there's 2 types of companies, pre-AI and post-AI. And post-AI companies are going to have a leg up because they're not going to have all these legacy systems and processes that they have to deal with. And so so we're trying to disrupt ourselves right now. So I would say that's my biggest passion. And I am a husband of 16 years and a father of 4. So I'm very busy as well outside of work. And I guess one secret thing about me is I built a giant ninja course in my backyard and applied to be on American Ninja Warrior. And so I like to try to have fun in my off time too.
That's now all I want to talk about. But so we are already delivering on the promise to talk about a lot more than just the B Corp certification, but which I want to get back into. But we're living through this poly crisis. There's societal shifts, environmental shifts, political shifts. So I'm curious, Travis, I'll start with you. What do you think the role of organizations is right now?
We are absolutely living in a polycrisis. I looked up this word. It was invented for the time that we're in right now. I mean, technically it was coined 20 years ago, but if you look at Google Trends, it didn't exist in Google Trends until 2022. So we are all experiencing that. It's totally true. And interestingly, I'm going to take this a different direction. I don't think I really thought about society. I think this started with me. It's a little bit selfish. I was just trying to live out my purpose and my personal why. So my purpose, when I breathe my last breath, I'll hope that I say that I spent time with people I cared about and that I help people. And so I just want to do that today. I want to do that every day. And my personal why is I just want to work with great people, for great people, do meaningful work that makes a difference on my terms. And so I just wanted my company to be an extension of that. And so in my opinion, that collected around me a bunch of other people that thought the same way. So I would say from a societal perspective, if there were more companies where people were living by their purpose and values according to a compelling vision that benefits the lives of others, positively impacts the lives of others, I just feel like that would the natural consequence would be a better society.
I love that, and I can see we'll get into this too. But like the motivations and what's inspiring you to become a B Corp certified company. Crystal, I want to ask you, in a moment when companies are pulling back on ESG and DEI, you are one of the rare companies that's doubling down. So tell us about what's motivating you there.
Yeah, I think it's if giving back to your community, supporting your people, supporting your community is something that is truly core to the DNA of your organization, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world around you, right? You're always doing it. It is part of just how you operate. It's part of our values. It is part of our goals and our KPIs across our organization. So I would say while we're doubling down in that we're getting more aggressive with our goals, right? We're seeing what our team can do, and every year we're challenging our team to do more and more. We lead by example. I think 2 years ago, I was the third highest volunteer in our organization. Last year, we did 5,000 volunteer hours with our team. This year, we're targeting 5,700. So every year, we're just challenging our team that when the world is spinning around you and you feel like there's chaos, because there is, and you don't know what to do, take one action. Go find an organization of that might be helping some of the folks or some of the causes that are sort of weighing heavily on you, and go do something with that. We have our team has unlimited time off, including for volunteer time. So if it happens to be during the day work, like great, go do that thing. So we're just continuing to encourage our team to do what we've always done, which is don't let it just weigh on you. Go do something. This is the platform that you have at our organization. Go use it to help a lot of these organizations and these causes that really in times like this need more help than ever.
And I'd like to add something to that, to Crystal's. That's okay.
Yeah, please.
I think this is awesome and inspiring, and I think that we absolutely have an opportunity as organizations to, positively impact the lives not only of the people we serve, but also the people that are at our companies. When we're living through a mental health crisis and a polycrisis like we talked about, having a place where you can be recognized and rewarded and encouraged and supported. Sometimes belonging is the place where people find the most belonging is in their workplace with the friends that they have. And so I just want to just acknowledge that is awesome, because if you're out there serving, inevitably you're serving with your coworkers and you're finding purpose, beyond just doing the work itself. I think that's really important right now.
It really is. It must be so grounding also that to take an action too. I think your advice was great. Like take an action must be so inspiring and grounding for the team. As you said, it's very chaotic right now. It's very disorienting for a lot of employees, especially younger employees right now. Okay, let's talk about your B Corp certification process. So I want to ask each of you, Crystal, I'll start with you. Can you take us through the process? And actually, can I ask, is anyone else B Corp certified here or pursuing it, wants to pursue it? Okay. Nobody. Okay, that's good. That's helpful for us to know, so we can kind of keep it high level. But, or actually, really, maybe like, how do you keep values at the center of your organization? We've talked about how it's not just about the certification. The certification is kind of like holding you accountable, or like an external kind of stamp on what you're doing internally. So, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired this journey for you?
Yeah, so quick story on the origin of Seer. So I've been at Seer for 18 years. We were founded 20 years ago. Our founder says he never meant to start a company. What really drove him to start our organization was he was working in a big insurance organization. He asked if he could work through his lunch hour to leave an hour early to go volunteer. We're in Philadelphia at CHOP, a children's hospital, and they told him no. And that just did not sit with him, right? He was like, wait a second, I'm trying to do good. I'm working through my lunch hour. So kind of, I think, stewed with him for a while, and so he eventually left. He did try to go find another job. It wasn't successful. And so he was like, you know what, I'm going to start my own thing. And from the day I start this thing, it is going to be based on having a purpose and providing support to our community. So it has been in our DNA since day one. When I joined 18 years ago, I had to sign my offer letter that indicated where I was going to spend 3 hours a month volunteering. Legally, we weren't allowed to do it, but we did it anyway. And we did that until probably about 10 years ago. And so that truly has just been in our DNA. And over the years, we've continued to set goals for our team. 4 years ago, we brought on a community impact manager, a full-time manager. She came from the nonprofit world. And our whole point of that was she knows this world. She knows how best to help nonprofits because she's been in their world. She understands how their funding cycles work. She understands and has partnerships with organizations throughout the country where our teams are located so that we can set up volunteer opportunities for our team both in person and remote. So she has been a huge part of us accelerating our goals and our vision. And along the way, we've done a lot of things. It's not just about the B Corp and the volunteering. That for us was more of a put the mirror in our faces. Are we doing as much good as we think we are and that we can be? And so that's kind of our purpose for going for the B Corp certification was sort of a public validation, more so for ourselves than anyone else, that we are doing the things we said we are and challenging ourselves to continue doing more and more each year.
How have employees reacted to the certification?
Yeah, our team was very excited, not surprised, because we signaled that this was going to come at some point, right? But they were really excited, and I think more, again, just that as much as they knew, they're part of it, right? It's a team of 175 people. They are part of sharing in these values and being really committed to having a purpose. But the sense of pride when we officially became certified was palpable. People were jumping on our company meeting. They were, coming off mute and just cheering. So I think it was just this sense of pride that we really do, even though we're already doing it, but it was just this extra social proof of we really are part of this company that is doing what they say they are doing and they care in the way that they say they care.
That's great. And Travis, I want to hear about your journey. What surprised you? What are the challenges?
Yeah, the certification process was harrowing. I mean, it almost goes back to what Crystal was saying is that, a lot of this is really just a reflection of what we were already doing. So pursuing the certification is almost the validation of the things that we had been pursuing for a long time. In fact, I started the company and I was very purpose-driven from the beginning. But about 10 years in, I was feeling a little disillusioned, and I just kind of started asking myself, if I were to die in a year, what would I be doing? If I had $100 million and I didn't have to work again, what would I be doing? And it kept going back, and I saw this TED Talk by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And, good companies know what they do. Most companies know how they do it, but the very best, the most timeless companies know why. And so I knew my personal why, but I didn't really know the why of the company. And so I just went back to my own purpose, which is to help people. So we codified the purpose of the company in 2015 to help people who help others. And that has nothing to do with really what we do as a business. We later added a component to pair beauty with results that is in alignment with our design and marketing services. But so kind of fast forwarding to 2022 when we were pursuing the certification, it was really just looking at all of these wonderful things that we were doing and saying, hey, wait a minute, all of these things align with the criteria that it takes to certify. Through the old model, there's governance, there's workers, there's community, environment, and customers. And now there's a new certification model that includes 7 different factors. And so all of these things are important. We rewrote our articles of incorporation to permanently basically instantiate the purpose of the company being to public benefit. And so even if I were to sell this agency, sell this company to another person, it is mandated in the legal documents that the company still be a purpose-driven company. So things like that were stuff that I would never have thought of that B Corp brought to my attention. And then during our process, we hired a consultant who specializes in doing this, which was really helpful. And we wrote a theory of change, which normally only nonprofits that are trying to basically cause a public benefit good would write a theory of change. So as a for-profit company, that was a new exercise. And then putting together KPIs that both relate to our success as a company, but also into how we're helping. So for example, we do volunteer hours as well. We're not as heavy in that as you guys. One of the things that we do is we elected an impact business model called Design to Give. So for the history of the company, we were giving away about 5% of our total gross revenue to vetted nonprofits, and a lot of our clients are nonprofits. And so it was just a no-brainer for us to do this impact business model. So B Corp came along and put a name to a face. We were already doing this. We were already donating, hundreds of thousands of dollars to vetted nonprofits. And so why not, create that impact business model and create a framework for accountability and transparency around it? And so it was just a huge benefit for us.
It sounds like accountability for both of you is big. So I know nobody raised their hand that they're also going through this certification process, but one thing I think everyone is going through is some kind of change management, whether that's return to office, hybrid work, or DEI or generative AI. So can you share some lessons that you learned? You talked a little bit more about the change that you had to go through, changing like hearts and minds and frameworks, and can you share insights from that?
Yeah. Oh man. I forgot. I think I was trying to think of the book I read, but there was an example of a CEO that grew his company into the billions, and he's like, all I did was just reiterate our core values every time we got together as an organization in a leadership meeting. And so I think that for us, the change management was really just turning the ship and just acknowledging that we, as a purpose-led organization, and that we're using our business as a force of good. I mean, the nice thing was a lot of people came in because we were purpose-led from the beginning, but we had codified it, with the B Corp. And so being able to kind of we have a quarterly meeting, we call it the State of the Company or Glide State of the Company. And I have I call it the Heart of Glide. So I start with our purpose and our values, and I go into our mission, and I talk about this concept of preserving the core, which is your core ideology, and then stimulating progress, which is your vision, your envisioned future, and your vivid description of the future. And so I think that, I heard a quote at a leadership conference recently by Brad Montague. He was the founder of Kid President, if you guys have seen that video series. And he said, leaders should always be having two conversations. And the first is, who are we? And the second is, where are we going? And so I think that when you're having these conversations on the regular, both on a weekly basis through, full team stand-ups where you reiterate core values, through your shout-outs where you're recognizing your values and purpose, and quarterly meetings where you're more structured, I think that there's just this alignment that happens. And I think that was the big change for me at my company, was just wanting to be in a group of people where we're all facing in the same direction, shooting for the same goals, and just how incredibly powering that is. One of my favorite quotes by Pat Lencioni said, if you can get a company all rowing in the same direction, you can win at any time in any market against any competition. And I've reiterated that quote hundreds of times to my team, and it's so true.
I love the like two big insights I took away from that, like the repetition doesn't ruin the prayer piece, and the sharing the vision with your team and connecting today to that future state.
Yeah, if you said it 7 times, they're just starting to hear it, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the thing that you both have in common is that the certification just like codified what you were already doing, the values you already have within your company. But you're also both businesses with stakeholders, and you have to balance, which is actually, I think the name of this session is really about choosing, purpose beyond profit. We talked about balancing purpose and profit. So how do you balance that? Crystal, you want to start? Travis?
Sure. I think it can be tricky at times when you're trying to balance the two. And you mentioned you guys do 5% of net income each year. We do the same thing. We actually have a larger target over the next 15 years to get to 15 million in nonprofit impact, and that's through donations as well as service hours as well. And so we have really aggressive, big goals out there, right? And it does come into the day-to-day, and there are pressures sometimes for our team of, we've got 2 clients coming on. One is a really great pro bono client that we're interested in supporting, and one might be a paid client. But if our team votes for the pro bono one, we take the pro bono one on. So we will literally turn away business and revenue and stunt our own growth if it's in pursuit of our purpose and our bigger why.
Amen.
Yeah, and I think there's this side of profitability and purpose that is supporting your own team. Like I said at the top, we have our clients, our coworkers, our community. Those are our why at the end of the day. Very easy for our team to remember. Everyone in our organization can repeat that to you. But on a tangible level, that means there are times when we have several times over my course of my history at Seer, we have chosen to, for example, let one of our largest clients go because they weren't treating our team properly. And in those moments, that's when your team looks at you and goes, you know what? You guys walk the walk. You are choosing purpose, truly choosing purpose over profit. We could be a probably 1,000-person, much larger revenue organization right now. But every time there's a decision where you have to go purpose or profitability, it is a balance. But our belief has always been, if you consistently choose purpose, the profitability will come. Not the best business role, I'll own that. I went to business school, that's not what I learned. But over 18 years, I can tell you that just that idea of put good into the world, the good will come back to you, has been amazing for us. We are bootstrapped, we have no debt, we never have, and we've been profitable every year. So, and that is in spite of us turning away and doing all these donations.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, even the title Beyond Profit is just short of, over profit, which, nonprofits already exist to implement purpose. But I do think that as an organization, we absolutely want to be profitable. We want to make money because if you're not profitable, if you're spending more money than you're making, then you're going to be out of business and your purpose won't matter because you're not helping anyone. And so, but interestingly, it's not 5% of net, it's 5% of gross. Mm-hmm. So, it ends up being, for our company, about 25% of our profit, which is so I guess that is pretty much purpose over profit now that I think about it, which is crazy. And so, we've had the same thing happen with clients where, it might be a client that is just very toxic or a client that is just a complete mismatch with our value alignment and somehow it just made it through where, that person wasn't on the line when we closed the deal. And when we let those people go, it never fails that I'll have about 3 or 4 people that will come to me and personally thank me and say, this is why I will never leave this company. Thank you so much for choosing your team, over the money. And so there are definitely those moments. And in addition to donating money and to turning away clients, we are making choices to basically for the betterment of our employees. For example, we adopted a 4-day work week in 2022. This was a huge change for us. As a professional services company, lopping an entire day off the week is kind of like, how do you do that and still be profitable when you bill by the hour? And so we had to become elite at productivity, at utilization, at profitability, at managing expenses. And just one beautiful story from this. We had an employee who was a project manager. She was awesome. She was pregnant with twins, but there were major complications. And she essentially had to go to the doctor every week through her entire pregnancy. And she was able to do that on her Friday when normally she would be working. And so she came to me in tears one day toward the end when things were going well with the twins before they were born, and just in tears, just thanking me for creating this construct, allowing her. She's like, there's no way I could have been able to go to all these doctor's appointments during the week because they were only available on weekdays. And so having a construct like that, so flexible work-life balance, and then also just choosing clients. So, about a third of our clients are nonprofits, and we have a second IBM or impact business model in B Corp called Supporting Purpose-Driven Enterprises. So we have set a 10-year target to recomposition the body of our clients so that they will be 75% will be codified purpose-led. So B Corp has a concept for this. It's like nonprofits, NPOs, other purpose-led, social or environmental good, or minority-owned or women-owned businesses. And so, we're trying to recomposition all of our clients to be people that are living out the purpose in their companies too.
You both shared so many inspiring wins, but I also find that we learned so much from our failures or things that didn't go well. So I'm hoping that you can each share like a hard-won lesson or a failure that you and your team learned a lot from. So, Travis, do you want to start with us?
Oh man, so yeah, lots of lessons learned. I would say my biggest failure is, it didn't sound like anyone is actively pursuing the certification process, but whatever it may be, don't pursue these efforts for the purpose of, virtue signaling or differentiation. I think one of the things that we thought going into this B Corp journey was, okay, look, we're already doing a lot of this stuff. There were things that we adopted we weren't doing. But we did, in a way, think, oh, surely this is going to open the floodgates to all of these other purpose-led companies that are going to come to us because we're a B Corp. That didn't happen. And what I learned was this is an affinity. When you're a marketing leader and you're going to hire a marketing agency, which we are, and you have two agencies to choose from, and one says, I really, really, really want to work with you because, our purposes align, and two is, we're going to deliver ROI on your marketing spend, which are they going to choose, right? And so we realized that purpose and values and all of these things are really second-order differentiation, or maybe even third-order differentiation. First-order differentiation is, can you produce results? Second is, what is your unique approach to those results? I would say third would be your purpose and values, things like that. And so I think that would be the hardest lesson that I have learned, and we've had to make a major pivot even in our positioning. And I think it goes back to the same thing with values. Excuse me. You don't generally choose your values from a marketing perspective. These are innate. They are uncovered. You don't create them. They are. And you don't even ever have to share them with the outside world. They're how you make your choices and how you reward and hire. And so I think that a lot of the things that relate to B Corp is the same kind of concept. It's innate. It's who you are. It's what you believe. And if it bubbles up to the surface to your clients, then all the better.
Do you have a lesson that you can share?
Are you here? There we go. I'll flip away a little bit from the B Corp and just think about it from like a purpose, really supporting your team. One of the hardest lessons learned as we grew, I think when we were 10, 20 people, we knew that everybody was committed to the same purpose, the same values. They were putting in the time, they were putting in the effort. And as we grew and also went fully remote, it stung a little bit when we started looking at volunteer hours because we track them and not everybody was participating. We have goals that the minimum that we'd like to see for our team is 16 hours per year. Majority of our team goes over that, but there are several that do no hours. And at first, I think, especially across our leadership team, there was a lot of frustration from all of us because that's a big reason people say they come to Seer, they stay at Seer. And I think at some point we just had to make peace with ourselves that might be true, that's why they come and that's something that they enjoy and they find meaningful, but for whatever reason, they don't have the time, they just aren't committed to giving the volunteer hours, and perhaps they're doing something else in their communities that's impactful. So I think we had to just kind of reset expectations with ourselves that as we've gotten larger and larger, expecting 100% of the company to meet every single goal and KPI we set out is probably not realistic. So our goal now has gone to, it's 16, we consider it success if 70% of our company hits the 16 hours per year. So that's kind of where we've landed to sort of recalibrate our own expectations because we were getting a little frustrated that we're doing all of this and we're organizing all of this and we've got this full-time person who helps the team find these and people weren't taking advantage of it.
That's a good lesson. We're going to ask you to ask questions in a second, but before we do, we talked about some big initiatives, obviously the certification. What are some day-to-day ways that you reinforce your company's values with your employees? Crystal, I'll start with you.
Cool. So as I said, we have volunteer hours. We have unlimited paid time off with a minimum requirement of 3 weeks of paid time off for our team. And then with that is also volunteer hours. So our folks can do volunteer hours all day long. We organize events internally. We have several channels internally that are related to community impact where our team is sharing the opportunities that they are doing. They'll post pictures. We organize our team if there's pockets throughout the U.S. where our team is co-located, then we will plan events that folks can do volunteer hours. We do pro bono work. We do what we call quarterly huddle days across our organization. And there's always a nonprofit volunteer aspect to that, a community day. We've done things like pick up trash. We did a painting last month, led by a nonprofit organization. We've got giving goals. New clients coming on, we donate $500 to a nonprofit of their choice as soon as they sign with us. We do Volunteer of the Month awards internally at Seer. We have channels where we're thanking folks, and I think some bigger things around that balance of both people and process and profitability. When COVID hit, we had what we called a COVID relief fund. So for our team, any of their direct family members, a partner, a mom, a dad, a sister, a brother, if they lost their job during COVID, our team was able to submit 2 family members throughout the entire year, and each one of them we gave a $5,000 stipend to kind of support them through challenges.
Wow. That's amazing.
We have a disaster relief fund, so if our team lives somewhere where there is a natural disaster, we cover like all their expenses while they're trying to like rebuild their lives. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the day today.
You're really living your values
Yes,
every day.
we try.
Yeah.
Well, we try.
Travis, how about you?
Wow, that's inspiring. I'm going to have to like take notes on some of those things. But I think that how many people here are leaders at their company that have the ability? Are there people that have the ability to manage the day-to-day leadership of the company? Or is there any of the people here? Kind of a mix? Okay. Well, I think that part of the journey that we've been on is you don't create values, you uncover them, and then when you live by them, they just need to kind of come up, right? So in our weekly full team stand-up, we're recognizing and rewarding people that have exhibited the core values of our company. When we do shout-outs, we have a channel, and as a small company of about 25 people, we're sharing anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 shout-outs a year. So this is, hundreds per week that are just kind of flying around. And we are always trying to implement systems and processes that allow us to check in with people on one-on-ones as managers. We use 15-5, which is a weekly check-in for our team. We do mood pulse. And we also have a disaster relief and a family fund for people that need, maybe an unexpected surgery or their AC in their house went out. One of the things that we do each quarter is in our state of the company is we have quarterly value award winners, and we allow these people to be recognized and ask them like, what do the values mean to you? And it's just so beautiful to hear how people would describe that value versus how I would describe that value. And we throw them a party and we give them a large bonus each quarter when they win that award to kind of put our money where our mouth is. And in addition to that, one of the things that we have found to be really helpful is, when we are meeting as a team, trying to exhibit these values. So, for example, one of our number one core values is to build meaningful relationships. And so, how are we making decisions that make that true, right? A value is only a value if you keep it if it's hard. And so, thinking about ways that you make choices, like, for example, for us, we chose to fly in all of our people. It's a small business, where we're trying to be very judicious with our expenses. We'll still pay the cost of flying people in, even from Europe, for team members that are overseas or in South America, to be in person so that we can foster and cultivate strong in-person relationships. And each year, no matter what our profit margin is looking like for that year, we always prioritize paying for this trip, paying for the amenities and the food and all the things that need to happen for us to be in person. So I think it's just making decisions based on these values, even if they hurt.
Yeah, just quickly add to that. It sparked something for me. I think you mentioned something around it's leadership living the values day to day. Whatever the values are of the organization, if it's purpose, if it's profit, whatever it is. And I think you mentioned the Start With Why book, which I love as well. And our exec on-sites, we have them twice a year. We all come together, 3-4 days that we're all together. The first session is literally called Start With Why, and we volunteer together. Like, that is the first thing I do with my executive team. Like, we're not jumping into the numbers or the goals, or it starts with why. And our why is building this community and giving back to those around us. So it might sometimes be an entire day, depending on what I end up planning with our community impact manager. But that really signals to our team, and we invite our team to come with us on those as well. But really signals to everyone that our exec team, yes, we want to talk about where we're going and our profits and everything else, but we're first going to start and spend our time together giving back.
Yeah, and just a good example, the exact same thing. At our last annual, we packed care packages for women going through breast cancer. So one of our clients, National Breast Cancer Foundation, they have a program where you pack care packages, and we did that as a full team. And I mean, through tears, and you write a note to each person, even though you don't know who they are yet. I think that was one of the most powerful things that we could do as a team.
We need to write a LinkedIn post with all these ideas. They're so good. They're so inspiring. And okay, what questions? We have 4 minutes left. Oh, there's one in the back. Oh.
First of all, thank you. Super inspiring to hear everything you guys do in your organizations.
Thank you.
A few questions. One is, I'm trying to understand the difference between like a B Corp and a benefits corporation. I'm not sure I understand the difference between that. The second is, how far in the company, how like in the legacy of the company, did you make this transformation? And then if you were starting a new company, is this something you could start at the beginning, like greenfield, or is it something that you have to be like like I have an established agency that's 35 people? It makes sense. But if you were to start over today, could you start as a B Corp, and how does that work?
Let me jump in. So those three questions, in terms of when I would start, so we started about 10 years, well, actually, no, about 15 years into our journey. And it was difficult. I think that it would be easier if you were starting from scratch to be able to do that. What was the first? The public benefit. That's right. So public benefit is similar to like an LLC or a corporation. This is a legal construct at a state level. So every state has a different version of this. I looked into becoming a public benefit corporation separate from B Corp. B Corp is founded by B Labs. B Labs is completely different. It is an entity. And B Corp is a certification like any other certification. A public benefit company is a company that has a public benefit at its core. And most states these days acknowledge that as something you can elect. It didn't make sense for us to transition our company. My accountant was like, "Whatever you do, don't do that. It'll cause a lot of complications, and you'll pay a lot more taxes." And so it didn't make sense for us to make that transition. But if I was starting a new business, I would absolutely look into that.
I was going to add to that too. I believe that for B corporations, in some states, you also have to be a benefit corporation. So depending where you are located, that's something you should also, if you're interested, I would look into that because some do require you. And so if you were starting something new, you would want to know that because it would change how you incorporate a new business. I think the only other benefit I'd say of having some of these values and practices in place versus maybe trying to go for a B Corp certification out of the gate is you've got more data. There is a lot of data needed to be able to become certified. They want to see proof that you are doing the things you say you're doing. So I don't know how that would work if you're at ground zero with a lot of that. And there's a lot of like policies. So we even had to go back and rewrite a lot of our policies because they weren't clear enough we're like, oh, well, yeah, we do that. And then we looked at our policy, we're like, that's not so clear. So there are benefits to that. So if anybody is interested, I would at least say, take a look at what the requirements are. It will give you a lot of really good places to like get a jump start on what the documentation and the data is needed to even start the certification process because it's not easy. It's a pretty arduous process.
And I'll just throw in that there's only 10,000 B Corps in the world, 2,000 in the United States and Canada combined. And there's, according to the Census Bureau, there's 6 million businesses in the United States with at least one employee. That's 0.03% are B Corps. So there's not that many right now as a whole. But they have a free online tool called the BIA, or the Business Impact Assessment. And about 100,000 businesses have used this just to become more accountable to their journey of using their business as a force of good, leading with purpose. So, that might be another area to potentially go through. Even that assessment is a pretty arduous process to complete. But if you were able to do that. So we're at time, I think. Yeah. But yeah.
Travis, Crystal, thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.